Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington. Yes, I said Mike Washington. He's actually here. I would say in the flesh, but I guess it's different when you're on virtual. He's here. He's on the screen. And Charles Bishop. Hey,
hi, Mike.
Doing, Mike?
Hi, Mike.
What's up, fellas?
Man, it's happy to see you, man. I almost forgot what you look like.
It is good. It is good to be back in the lab. I see Charles over there flexing his biceps. Look at all in the camera. Yeah, yeah. You still look pretty.
Welcome to episode 361 and Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live. KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University for Houston, Texas. And obviously that's the multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper. With that being said, ask Mike how he's doing. So I'm going to go to you, Charles. How you doing, Charles?
Doing well, Doc. It's cold this week. No golf this week. It's all head down this week. So
yeah, if you bold bad man you got out there in this weather, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No golfing with the little orange balls or the little pink balls in the snow or ice or whatever.
Yeah. Anytime it gets below 55, you cut me off. So.
Oh, there it is. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, all serious, Mike, how you doing?
Good, Doc. Just life on the road, but glad to be back. Basketball season's getting hot and warm, and got some other kinds of news happening across the world. But just glad to be back in the house with my dog CB and you, of course. My dog, y'all know him as Dr. Cavil. We knew him as a few other names back in the day, aka Bear. So I shouldn't have said that, huh?
Back throwing blows. He ain't taking no fun.
I shouldn't have said that, huh?
Well, I tell you, I don't know about some of these folks. You can't kid your friends. I don't know who you can. But on a more serious note, somber note, North Carolina Central University mourns the passing of alumnus assistant coach George Williams. North Carolina Central University mourns the loss of the alumnus of the women's basketball assistant coach, as I said. George Williams, who passed away on Monday, January 30th at age 71. He was a 1973 graduate of North Carolina Central. Williams returned to the women's basketball program as a volunteer from 2022-2023 season after previously serving as a head assistant coach for the Eagles for 7 seasons from 2002 to 9. He held the title of assistant head coach when North Carolina Central won the last league title in the program history, the CIAA championship in 2006-07. Williams also worked as a teacher with the Durham Public Schools and was head girls coach at Hillside High School from 1988 to 1997. where he had 5 20-win seasons, 6 state playoff appearances, 3 conference championships, 3 sectional championships, and a regional championship and a state championship. Williams was a 3-time PAC Coach of the Year, was picked as a 4A state coach championship coach. The 4 sports athlete Terry Stanford High School in Fayetteville, North Carolina, also coached girls track, wrestling, football at Hillside. Williams also coached at E.E. Smith High School and Fayetteville State University. With that being said, let's give a moment of pause for none other than George Williams, assistant coach of North Carolina Central University. With that being said, it's midpoint for the SWAC, so I'm interested. We might get a chance to get in a little talk maybe before the end of the show and see what your thoughts in terms of some midterm grades, since Charles is just throwing grades around here and testing and quizzing kids on where is the student section in the arena. Post students, they just like, this is a trick question. I'm not sure. But let me go to you. Let me go to you, Charles, since you are doing your work as the adjunct professor here at Texas Southern University, putting in work. What's some other news of the day that you want to share out there?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the MEAC as they announced their weekly men's basketball honors presented by Coca-Cola. Howard University sophomore Elijah Hawkins and Maryland Eastern Shore graduate forward Nathaniel Pollard have been named the MEAC Men's Basketball Co-Players of the Week, announced today. And Howard University Shy Odom was also named the Rookie of the Week, while Delaware State's redshirt sophomore Raymond Somerville was announced the Defensive Player of the Week. Let's take a look at the statistics. First, for Elijah Hawkins, he averaged 17 points, 10 assists for the Bison this past week, going to combine 10 of 19, 53% from the floor, and 5 of 6 from three-point range. He recorded 17 points and 10 assists each in wins over North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. And against the Eagles, he also grabbed 5 rebounds and 2 steals. We take a look now at Player of the Week, Maryland Eastern Shore graduate forward Nathaniel Pollard. He averaged 22.5 points, 11.5 rebounds per game as the Hawks. They defeated Coppin State and Morgan State to remain in a tie for first place in the MEAC standings. He had 23 points and 12 rebounds and 6 assists against the Eagles before turning in a 22-point, 11-rebound effort against the Bears for the week. Pollard was 15 for 21, 71% from the floor, and 15 of 18 from the free throw line. That's 83%. So those were the MEAC players of the week.
Hey, Charles, since you as well as AD Drew, were a little concerned with Maryland Eastern Shore ranking last week. Did you happen to see what Maryland Eastern Shore did over the weekend?
I happened to notice what Maryland Eastern Shore did over the weekend.
And what did they do?
I think their ranking.
No, we'll get to the polls, Mike. We'll let it be known. I just
want to know what they did.
I'm gonna let you know.
They were number 1, right?
Yeah, they were number 1. They won. AD Drew is in the background driving the bus. I'm just making sure that he's paying attention, which he always is, because I wanted to make sure he was aware as well. I saw the show on Sunday, so he is very aware. That was prior to Monday's game where they put in some work as well, but just wanted to be known. But with that being said, let me go to you, Mike. What's on your mind for news of the day?
Well, I know we start off with the basketball honors, but as usual, I'm going to start off crazy and off script. So I got this text. Then I got this little whatever, meme or whatever. HBCU Tennessee State University earns 2 Grammy nominations. Bam. So congratulations, Tennessee State University's Aristocrat of Bands received great news, of course. On Tuesday, the Recording Academy announced the nominations for the 65th Grammy Awards, and Tennessee State University appeared on the list not once, but twice. So according to the AP News, the first nomination is for the marching band's album, The Urban Hymnal. The Urban Hymnal. And the best roots gospel album category. Okay, urban hymnal, best roots gospel. I don't see that at halftime, but we'll see. Anyway, so they also received
they do better at halftime.
They also received the second Grammy nomination for the collaboration on a spoken word single with artist Jay Ivy. So, congratulations to the Aristocrats, Tennessee State University's marching band on 2 Grammy nominations. I have to give kudos to my wife. She is a Grammy hound. So when it comes to the Academy Award and the Grammys, she points out all of this stuff. So then all of a sudden I was getting
shout
tweets
out to Kim.
Whatever. So shout out to Kim. She gave me this little thing. Did you see this on the Grammys? Yeah, but that ain't Prairie View's marching band, but whatever. So anyway, congratulations to the Tennessee State Aristocratic bands on their 2 Grammy nominations.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, Brandon King, that's a shout out for you, Tennessee State. That's about all y'all getting a shout out right now because this is the basketball. I'm just saying, that's my boy. I'm just giving him some love. We talked the other day. LaShawn Harris, Deron Waters getting in here, Brandon King, Carol Keelam, Ricky Burton, Chuck Hunt up here showing us love, Sarah Beverly. What else we got here? Willie Alex Hines. Maurice Jackson is in the building. Edwin D. Moore getting it done. Who else we have in here? Appreciate y'all jumping in here, giving us some love in terms of shout out. Y'all buried the lead. Tomorrow's signing day. I know y'all have all these schools have been signing all these folks all along. And tomorrow's when you put pen to paper past the early signing day. So Jackson State holding a signing day. Prairie View's holding a signing day. Southern's holding a signing day. I'm sure the other folks are holding one as well. But tomorrow's a big day. G-Boom Holly's in here, coming from the cold to get in the lab. Yeah, it's cold out there. I'll let you in now. It's cold. Shut the door.
It's cold. Cold out there. And that's cold spelled C-O-L-E. That's cold.
Yeah,
real cold. Yeah, real cold. I just want to give a shout out there. Since we're talking about a little band, I say Southern University Human Jukebox to perform at Reese's Senior Bowl as they're getting some love that Saturday, February 4th. University of South Alabama in Hancock Whitney Stadium. They'll be there. Will perform pregame, halftime, and in-game music as they continue to get it done. There are 2 HBCU participants, FAMU Isaiah Lane and Jackson State's Aubrey Miller Jr. will be participating in the Reese's Senior Bowl as they can get watched and perform a lot of this to see where they may, hopefully will go in the NFL draft as they start looking for the process there. The game will be on the NFL Network if you want to check it out. And it's 1:30 p.m. February the 4th. With that being said, let's get into our first break. We'll come back on the other side, and we will get into week number 4 in terms of the major division. We'll have women's and men's to break down the top 5 programs and see who's in, who's out, and what's going on as things continue to push forward. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients. Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Press the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into the major division women's basketball poll rankings. Week number 4. Dropping out this week, Alabama A&M Bulldogs, after picking up 2 big victories at home, dropped 2 on the road. One probably major upset when they lost to FAMU, but then they dropped another one at Bethune-Cookman that bounced back after 2 losses on the road. So you had that kind of season for some of the teams in the middle where they go on these highs of highs, lows of lows, many teams are doing what they need to do at home, but they can't quite get the split on the road. Which will be interesting to see what goes on. But those receiving votes, Southern Jaguars sitting at 9-11, 6-3, right in the mix of a lot of teams that are sitting at 6-3, along with Alabama A&M Bulldogs, still receiving votes at 8-11, 6-3. Both of those 2 teams have 28 and 13 points respectively. Then you have Prairie View A&M Panthers sitting at 9-11, 6-3 themselves at 11 points. And all 3 of those teams in the Southwestern Athletic Conference race. Bethune-Cookman 7-2, 6-3 as well. Another SWAC team sitting in that 6-3. So you get a little refrain there and see what's going on. But let's get into the top 5 where we have a new team jumping into the top 5. Right there at number 5 is none other than Howard Bison, sitting at 9-11, 5-2. Had a big weekend, got things done. 61 points, were not ranked as they continue to push forward. At number 4, Jackson State Tigers, 11-8, 8-1. They're just rolling, sitting at 86 points, and they closed the gap at number 3, but couldn't quite jump them with 4th place. I won't be surprised if they overtake them with a couple more victories. Sitting at number 3, Norfolk State Spartans, they bounce back and get a big victory, 17-4, 5-1, going undefeated this week and won 88 points. Remain at number 3. And number 2, North Carolina A&T State Ag, 8-1. They're rolling. That big victory. Had a close one at home, but they got it done, and that's what counts this time of the year. It doesn't ask you in the column how pretty was it. They just want to know at the end of the day when it goes to 0, do you have one more point than the other team? And they did just that as they got it done. They received 3 first-place votes, 104 points. Brings us to number 1. Morgan State Bears solidifying where they stand, 13-6, big victory, 6-0. Previously had that victory over Norfolk State to make sure that they made their statement when they had a chance last week, but they continue to roll. 5 first-place votes, 112 votes. You're getting a lot of cancellation, COVID-related in terms of the number of players on the women's side in the MEAC. So that's where you're not getting so many conference games played, just to keep that in your thoughts when you break down this thing. Let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts on the top 5 programs in week number 4?
How many has North Carolina A&T won in a row?
They should have. It had to be like 8, 9.
Okay, yeah.
Early loss.
I know that I knew there were some teams that were streaking, and I know Jackson State, they had like a 5-game win streak. I know Morgan has a 6-game win streak. I was curious where A&T was within that win streak, but I think the poll pretty much is right on target. I think Howard is one of those emerging teams. Destiny Howe, leading scorer in the MEAC. She's a low in terms of a double machine, but I guess I take a look at a team like Jackson State. They've been chugging along with a couple of injuries along the way. So they can only get stronger as we go down the stretch here, especially when they get a player like Maya Crump back in the lineup and she gets back into the groove of doing her thing. But I think the poll is pretty much on spot on this week.
Excuse me.
So A&T has won 3 straight, and Lady Tigers have won 5 straight. A&D, did you have one in terms of Morgan State? How many they won in a row?
6 in a row.
Thank you. 6 in a row. Mm-hmm. Mike, what are your thoughts on the poll rankings for the women?
Yeah. So I wonder where Southern was. If you look at where they are in the standings, they're 6-3.
They would be if we went further enough, they would be at 6.
They've been
just
6
outside of the top 5. Yeah.
All right, and then I wonder if head to head, Prairie View A&M women, did they not beat Jackson State head to head?
They did.
Yes.
Okay, so then I wonder where head to head factors. Other than that, to be honest, at this point in the juncture, at this point in the season, I have no qualms with your poll. I just wanted those 2 data points. Where does Southern fall, and how do we factor kind of the head-to-head? Jackson State has been rolling, and then North Carolina A&T, they got, 5 or 6 straight. So you can't really deny, the way your poll's set up and where they fall out right now. I will say that there's
one of the things to your point there, which is a great point you're making, is Southern and Alabama A&M defeated Prairie View, which is part of their 2 losses there. A&M was on the road, but Southern was at home. They did get the win over Jackson State, but that's kind of outlier for them. And the biggest thing that probably hurt Prairie View in terms of after they beat Jackson State, they jumped in the top 5. But then they turned around and lost 2 straight in Alabama. They lost to both Alabama State, which did go to overtime, but they lost it. And then they lost to Alabama A&M. They kind of pulled away late.
Yeah, that Alabama tour really hurt them. So there's parity across there, but nothing wrong with the polls, Doc. I think you hit it spot on.
That was a strong win last night, Jackson State. I took notice of that win, especially being on the road and Southern. Always
on a Monday, Charles. On
Monday. Yeah, those Monday games are weird nights where anything can happen. But Jackson State was able to hold serve with regards to close game at halftime, but Jackson State was able to stretch out there in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
Good stuff. Good points. Let's get into the men's side, the top 5 as we drop it down. Get it done there, and we'll mix around. And after the break, we'll bring in on some insight. I did want to give an update in terms of some sports coming on this week as we can get in there with HBCU Go. So I'll give you some updates in terms of what some of those games will be coming into the week, Saturday and Sunday, as they've been showcasing a good amount of the games, doing their thing there. So they have their Saturday, Monday split that they've been doing, February 4th and 6th. They have Grambling State at Alabama State for the doubleheader. Both men's and women's. And then on Monday, that Saturday, I should say, it's 12:30, 3 o'clock tip-offs. And then on Monday, it's 5:30, 8 o'clock, which is Mississippi Valley State at Alcorn State, the rivalry game there. Doubleheaders in the mix will be going down. So it'll be fascinating to see what's going on there. Let me give you some updates. You talked about A&T with their 3 straight wins, playing solid as they continue to kind of mix it in and get it going. Tennessee State struggled. They had one game they won essentially by a forfeit as a team couldn't suit up. So I've been intriguing because I've kind of seen this around the country where while the men are able to kind of push through it, you're having some trouble on the women's side. Across the board, at least at the Division I level, that's in the MEAC. You've seen that with the OVC, with the opponent of Tennessee State, but you've even seen it with some of the other Division I programs outside of that. So that's been kind of fascinating to see how that's going when you talk about some of those matchups there. When Tennessee State got the forfeit win over Lindenwood in terms of that matchup. But on this past Thursday, it lost to Southeast Missouri 77-59. So struggling a little bit this season in terms of the Lady Tigers sitting at 7-13 overall, 3-7 in terms of what they're going on there. And then obviously we talked about how well A&T is doing as they are sitting in first place in the conference. They have a 1-game lead over the next 2 teams, Drexel Dragons and Stony Brook Seawolves. They are 14-6 overall, 8-1 as you saw in the poll ranking, winning 3 straight, looking good there. But Hampton is not doing as well, 7-12, 4-5 in terms of what they're doing in the conference race, sitting at the middle part, bottom half of the conference, struggling in terms of those matchups. With that being said, Let's go to our break. We'll come back on the other side, get into the men's top 5, see what you're thinking about things going on there. Men's race is exciting at the top to some degree, much like you see on the women's in the middle. Southern, it seems that they're trying to push away a little bit, but it's really intriguing when you think about the MEAC, because this is a surprise at the top of the MEAC. And as I showed you last week, to some people, surprising the poll ranking. We'll see if it holds true this week. Stickers will be right back after this break. Charles, this we call a tease.
Yeah.
I see.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into the men's side of things and break it down and see what you guys think about what's going on in the men's top 5 in the major division. Dropping out this week, we did have one team that dropped out. Morgan State Bears, they were rolling for a while, had that big win that you saw earlier, but since then they've kind of fallen on hard times, losing 2 straight games, including one to Maryland Eastern Shore, which was certainly a statement. They followed 11-11 overall, 4-3, and out of the poll. Let's see who's receiving votes this week. Grambling State Tigers sit at 13-8, 6-3 at 35 points. Another team that started really hot. They're still in the mix, but they hadn't probably pushed forward as much as you think they may have after they got off to a pretty hot start in conference play. And certainly coming into conference play, they were doing things. Another team that is struggling based on how they did things early on. When you think about it, dropping out of that, in terms of what it looks like, Tennessee State 12-11, 4-6 as they continue to get it done. Morgan State Bears sit at 11-11, 4-3 with 23 points, and Arkansas Pine Bluff Lions sit at 10-12, 6-3 for 22 points as these teams kind of struggle, but still better than others as they got a chance to push on the outside, looking up into the top 5. So who's in the top 5? We have number 5, Alcorn State Braves, 10-11, 7-2, 78 points. They fall 2 spots. They had a tough loss to Southern, but Southern is playing so well, and it was on the road. So with what some of the other teams did and couldn't get consistency, they didn't fall out of the top 5, but they do fall 2 spots. Mike Jones told us to watch out for the Braves, but they couldn't quite get it as the Southern Jaguars freaking and red hot. At number 4, Norfolk State Spartans bounced back after they took a couple to the chin. They had 15-7, 5-2, big win over North Carolina Central as they got it done Monday night. Got to watch that game last night on ESPNU. Good ball game. Kind of went back and forth. They had a lead that they controlled for most of the game. Every once in a while, Central would make a run, but they just couldn't quite get over the hurdle. They had 82 points. They were outside of the poll because of a couple of losses they had last week, but they found a way to jump back in it and right the ship, at least for now. Bringing us to number 3, Southern Jaguars sit at 12-10, 8-1, and they're rolling. Had the big victories over the state of Mississippi, starting with Alcorn State, which was really a battle for first place. They handled Southern late. It was one of those 2-point games, and then they pull away late to get a solid victory. They come back last night, and that game was on television as well on ESPNU, as I got a chance to watch that out. Man, I had the iPads out there watching out. HBCU had their game on with Alabama State as they traveled to FAMU, so got to watch all this in the mix. So, I was really excited about how much I got to see in terms of HBCU men's Division I basketball, and add the women's on there on HBCU Go as they do the doubleheader. But with that said, let's get back into the top 5, talking about 3 Southern Jaguars. 12-10, 8-1, 2 first-place votes, 83 points. They move up a spot. They take care of Jackson State, and it looked like they were going to run Jackson State out of it. I mean, I think Jackson State had 15 points at half. Credit to Jackson 40-15. They pushed back in that second half and got the score down to a couple of possessions. And then it just looked like they ran out a little gas. Southern Jaguars made a couple of big plays in that matchup to get it done. You have to give credit to the Jaguars as they are finding ways this year. They're winning those close games as they did not last year after starting off hot. It looks like they're going to be in it to win it and in to the end. And number 2, Howard Bison. They are just streaking along. They're playing really good basketball in a lot of ways as they just continue to win. They sit at 14-10, 6-1. 4 first-place votes, 100 points. Howard has won 6 games in a row. Bringing us to number 1, Maryland Eastern Shore, when everybody else thought it was a joke. How could this happen? They had 13-8, 6-1. They hold on to the number 1. They grab another first-place vote with 5 to solidify things after winning 2 games this weekend, 112 points. They have a win streak of 6 games, so they're looking really good in terms of what they're getting done. Of just winning some big-time games and just continue to push forward. Southern Jaguars, as they've won 3 in a row, pretty solid. They had that tough loss in there to Pine Bluff on the road. But other than that, obviously, they have won, 8 of their last 9 games with 3 in a row. With that being said, let me start with you, Mike, in terms of the top 5 with Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks. Yes, the Hawks, the mighty Hawks, are at number 1 for the second week in a row. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5?
To be honest, you can't argue with the Maryland Eastern Shore. 6-1. You really can't. I mean, who is their loss to? Norfolk State at home early in January. So you can't really argue with that. What I can argue with,
that was first game too. You're right. Good catch. Man.
Yeah, first game. What I can bring the concern with was Southern. They have some quality wins. Howard does do, but I would rank Southern just looking at that eye test and how they're playing lately. I would rank Southern over Howard. Just how they're playing and looking at the type of offense and defense. They've won some tough games on the road. Yes, they did lose to Pine Bluff in Pine Bluff, middle of January, if that's not if my memory don't fade me. But I saw part of that game. But you're looking at Southern and looking at the eye test and how they're playing, I would rank them above Howard. That's the only tweak or change I would make to the poll. Other than that, you got it.
I like what you said. Let's look at a little bit of that for those out there. Southern defeated Texas Southern on the road, 77-76. That game was overtime, was a buzzer beater.
Yep.
Texas Southern had bounced back a little bit. They won 3 in a row before they lost at home to the rival Prairie View. Really good game. It could have went either way. It was a double overtime, just to give you some indication of how tough that matchup was. Southern goes to Prairie View and gets it done. It goes down to the wire. They win 66-62. Prairie View's in the middle. They kind of struggled. Looks like they may be getting some things together as they get a point guard back in the matchup, which Texas Southern has well. So it'll be interesting, as you're saying. Are those as quality wins as we thought they would be, or maybe they're just okay wins? Now, you had the rivalry in terms of Southern getting their 3 games in a row. They played Grambling, FAMU, the Florida schools. But then they go on the road to Pine Bluff. They lose that one 62-55. And Southern, in terms of Valley, they win that 84-70. Then they host 2 at home. So the first 9, they have their 5 home games during this first 9. So on the backside, they'll have 5 of the road games of the 9. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of flips out and what that looks like. But great points when you talk about some of these key matchups when you're looking at some tough teams. Let's look at it for Howard, since you think they should be over Howard, because I think there's some good points you make there. I want to see what that looks like when you talk about what Howard has done in terms of some of their games. Obviously, they started out, they defeated Delaware State 84-64. That was a home. They go on the road and beat Eastern Shore. The only loss for Eastern Shore when you talk about it. So, interesting to see what that looks like.
That's a big quality win.
That's a big quality win.
Yeah. Now they even look stronger. They get a win over Norfolk State. That's another top 5.
That's another one.
Norfolk State.
Yeah.
They do that on the road. Now, it was a little controversial, but at this point, they won. And I want to tease AD a little bit about this. Remember, we were breaking down, and I had the question, was that a 2-shot technical? At least according to what the announcer said last night, Jones got the information back that he was correct. It should not have been only a 1-shot technical foul, which is tough over these times. And I was wondering that, and I was asking that, and I said that about technical foul. That's a little off subject. We'll get back to it. They get the big win on MLK Day over Morehouse. They trust them like they're supposed to, the Division II program. They get the win over Morgan State, and at the time, Morgan State was playing well, 88-56. They do what they're supposed to do. The Coppin State, those games at home. They beat Central. That was another home game. So they played most of those games at home, but they got a big win over Norfolk State on the road and big win over Maryland Eastern Shore on the road. They got some tough road games that'll be interesting, like the second half of the season.
They got some tough road games. I will give you that. But if you look at you look at their last games, I mean, South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, Coppin State, Morgan State. I will give you their tough Maryland Eastern Shore. But you look at the records of what's the record of those teams. They're a combined losing record. The last 3 or 4 teams,
right?
So
now,
you talking about with Maryland Eastern Shore?
Central is at 10-11. They just lost 3 in a row, so they had a winning record when they played them. You're right. When you talk about Coppin State, South Carolina State, they're sitting at the bottom of the conference. You can't.
Yes, they're at the bottom. Coppin State, South Carolina State, North Carolina.
But Southern had a win over Valley. They had a win over FAMU that was lost. Let me let Charles get in here. I like the way Mike pushed back a little bit this week. That's good. He comes back in the mix and he roll up his sleeves. I got something to say. We'll come back to you, Mike. Let me let Charles come in.
Here's what scares me a little bit about Maryland Eastern Shore. Deservedly number 1 right now, but they're like 7 in the MEAC in offense. And at some point, that has to catch up. Yeah, now they're the number 1 defense. They're the number 1 defense. I give them credit on that, but at some point, you got to put the ball in the hole a little bit more consistently. And that's the thing that makes Southern, I think, scary to me, especially looking at them going down the stretch, is they're number 1 in the SWAC in total offense, and they don't have a top 10 scorer. I believe their highest score is like 12th or something in the conference. So they really do it from a team perspective in terms of getting point production all over the place. So those are a couple of things that I noted. But I probably would have Howard in front of Southern. I think Howard has some quality wins out there for me. But before I go any further, let me give a shout out to Bethune-Cookman. With all the turmoil going on down there, they managed to scratch out a couple of wins this weekend. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Bethune-Cookman. That was macho to see that they could, win through the adversity, if you will, with whatever's going on campus.
Yeah, but
Great call,
let me get back in. I'm not through. You brought out statistics. Howard is number 4 in the offense. For them to be number 2 in the league, they're number 4, 5 in the offense in the league. They're number 6 in defense. And you look at Southern, where they rank statistically. Do they look like a number 2 team? Do they look like that top team? And I will also like to give kudos to Bethune-Cookman on that win as well. I didn't want to go overshadow that. But that finishes my point. Their last 3 or 4 teams are against bottom feeders, and look at where they are statistically. That's where I would kind of rank Southern above. Southern's top in the SWAC in scoring, in offense. Defense, they're like number 3 or 4. They keep fluctuating. So do they look like a number 2 or 3 team in your rankings?
Not compared to East Coast school. My East Coast bias about to show up. I got Howard in front of.
So here we go. Here we go with that East Coast bias. Here we go. And see, let's get to the root of it. It's that East Coast bias. I knew it. It's that East Coast bias.
They just play better basketball.
Tyler says no, it couldn't. Edward D. Moore says no. 2 technical shots have been. 1, shaking my head. These refs shouldn't have called that if they weren't shaky on the rules. Shaking my head. Then I love what he says next. He said, "Mr. Data Points is back." He laughed. Yeah, but Mr. Data Points is in the building.
Let me ask this question, Doc. As far as the SWAC tournament, the top how many teams make it?
Top 8.
Yep.
Top 8. Right now, Texas Southern is sitting at 8. Sitting at 8. It's going to be a very interesting month down the stretch here for Texas Southern. They are sitting right at number 8. You can't even fathom. You're talking about the defending SWAC tournament champion.
Yeah.
Potentially not making the SWAC tournament.
On the men's side, Prairie View and Texas Southern are out.
Yeah.
They're sitting outside the 8.
They both outside the
ball.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, Texas Southern is at 9. You're right. Wow.
Texas Southern actually at 10. Prairie View at 9. FAMU is at 11 and Valley at 12.
Yep.
Yeah. Ew.
That's ugly. That's real.
Prairie View was tied at 4 and 5 with Alabama A&M, Alabama State, and Bethune-Cookman, and Texas Southern is just 1 game out. So, yeah, in terms of getting in that 7-8 spot, it's going to be interesting. And it's going to remind you, if it's Prairie View, Texas Southern, it might remind you of last year when you get that first round, that 1-8 matchup that we saw Prairie View and Alcorn that went down to the wire. It's going to be fun when we talk about the tournament. And I'll let it out now. I will be heading to the MEAC for the MEAC tournament in turn of Norfolk for at least the first part of the week. Then I'll head back to the end of the week and see Birmingham and see the SWAC tournament there. We'll get in there and get it done. So it's going to be fascinating to kind of watch this hunt down the stretch because on the men's side, it's going to get interesting to see who can just get into the ranking to see what that looks like. A little different out of the MEAC, but it should be fun as well. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll start talking about some matchups as we look forward to the second half of the season. Actually give us some grades. They don't have to give everybody, but they give the A's and they give some F's in terms, maybe some C's in terms of a couple of teams they want to give grades to, MEAC, SWAC, and they can even jump out of the independence in terms of OVC or the Colonial, if you would. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Before we get into some of these nice matchups, this is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Before we get into some of these matchups, let me give some updates out there. Obviously, we will have some more updates in terms of what's going on tomorrow. Big day for a lot of folks. Told you about the watch party. Prairie View will be over there. Check out Mike to see what Prairie View has on the signing list. Get some stuff with Texas Southern. Make sure Charles give us some updates to Jackson State. They are just seeming to really dominate in a lot of ways. People are thinking that they're going to bring in the #1 FCS signing class, multiple 4 stars, some 3 stars, obviously some 2 stars that they've gotten to work, and some transfers as well. Should be a monster class. The Jackson State FAMU is really doing some stuff well in terms of what they got going on. North Carolina Central has been quiet, but some of my back channel says they put in some good work. And they're excited about what's going on over there. Morgan State is really ravaging and putting some work in the Baltimore DMV area, if you would, in terms of what's going on there. But listen tomorrow, Wednesday, 80 Drew at BCSN Drew, if you would, will be in the house as he will work with D2 football in regards to a Twitter Spaces. They will look at signing day from the SIAC perspective. That will be at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Coaches, recruits, fans, come out and let's celebrate and welcome these young men as you talk about signing day from the D2 football perspective, particularly with the eyes on the SIAC. You also have Twitter Spaces as they continue to do some things with HBCU Nightly, as well as BJ Jones. And talking about BJ Jones and Joshua Sims, they'll be on Thursday, the second half of the show, and they'll break down and give us some rankings of what took place on Wednesday from a retrospect perspective. And then announce again, as they do a little bit of the X's and O's for the new show that they got out there. They announced on Twitter Spaces a week ago, I should say. We'll bring them on and let them do the things. We'll have a special announcement as we start to get into baseball. We'll talk about the Cactus Jack, Houston Astros. We should have an interview with Daryl of the Astros as we'll get some things done there. So we're excited about what that will look like in terms of some of those matchups to give you a lot of the updates there. So check us out on Thursday. It should be a packed show as we will jump right into it. So be here early, not to miss anything. But with that being said, let's look at some of these key matchups. I'm running down. Then you can tell me which ones will catch your eyes in terms of what that looks like. Saturday, you have Grambling at Alabama State, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Alcorn, FAMU at Texas Southern, Southern at Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State at Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman at Prairie View, and obviously on Monday, it flips with Grambling at Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State at Alcorn, FAMU at Prairie View, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman at Texas Southern, Southern at Alabama State, men's, women's side, Charles, of those SWAC matchups, what are some games that stick out to you?
Monday night, UAPB at Jackson State. That always sticks out because, Coach Don Thornton, she has that team always like ready to play Jackson State whenever they come to town, as her alma mater and things of that nature. So that sticks out for me this particular weekend as far as a matchup that I kind of want to keep my eyes on.
Before I go to Mike and then we get into some MEAC coming back with you, what are some of your grades? What stuck out to you? Some of your A's, C's, or F's? What are some grades that you have in the SWAC? Men's or women? You talking to me or Mike? You, Charles.
Oh,
sticking with you before I go to Mike.
Yeah, thus far I would probably say Jackson State women A-. They did stub their toe at Prairie View Hostile Place, but for the most part they've been playing consistent basketball. On the men's side, I would probably stay with Southern as far as an A- as well. They really are 8-1. That's at the midpoint of the season. And like I mentioned earlier, they're doing it from an offensive standpoint where they don't have a top scorer that's in the top 10 in the SWAC. So those teams stand out for me. Unfortunately, you got to go F with Texas Southern. I just really did not expect to see this from a Texas Southern basketball team, for them to be looking up in the standings in terms of even getting to the SWAC tournament. So, you have both sides of the coin, the A's and the F there.
So, surprise team, I'm sure you're probably looking at Pine Bluff. What grade would you give Pine Bluff?
Probably for Pine Bluff, they would probably be right there at a B. That's an impressive 6-3 to me. Sean Doss is one of the more impressive players in the league. And then I'm going to throw one out there for you because for me, North Carolina A&T, they should be right at a B. When you're talking about the top 4 teams in their conference, I believe they're all already like at 15 wins already. Top team in the Colonial Athletic Conference is already a 20-game winner. So for them to be right there at 6-5 within the conference, that's impressive to me.
Like that. Going to you, Mike, what are some games that you have on your mind that you're looking at this weekend before you give me some grades?
Well, I think, if you look at the SWAC, I think, Grambling? Gramblin's got to go through the Alabama schools for some reason.
Yeah, Grambling's at Alabama A&M on Monday, at Alabama State on Saturday.
I think those will be interesting. For some reason, people tend to stub their toe when they got to go to Alabama. Those are the ones that are most intriguing. There are others as well, but those are the ones that stack out. I believe in the MEAC. Who's got to face Howard in the next? Is it the Maryland, the Eastern Shore? When do they play Howard, or do they play Howard again?
They have a weird schedule this week because they only do the Saturday. They don't do the Monday, and they only have 2 of the teams playing. They have Morgan State at Delaware State, and they have Hampton at Norfolk State. So they have a non-conference game, which is the Legacy Classics. Is taking place, so that I guess that had something to do with the schedule. You had that kind of mix. You got Chicago State at Delaware State on Tuesday, so the only conference game you got going on Saturday is actually Morgan State at Delaware State.
Yeah, but I think the men's basketball, I think Howard's got Maryland Eastern Shore coming up on the 13th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think that
on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that also piques my interest. I know it's a little further out than you asked, but that's one that also piques my interest as well.
No, you got all the right to look in the future as you like. I don't care about this weekend's game; they'll be all right.
Yeah, this weekend's game is just like
that's basically what I'm saying.
I want to get good. So, what is some of your grades?
Some of the grades. Let me start with UAPB for real. Maybe there are more basketball aficionados, but that 6-3, I think CB stated it quite pointedly. That 6-3 is impressive, and I give them an A minus. I on the also Southern, I give them an A minus. 8-1, impressive. They did stub their toe at UAPB, and then on the women's side, I give Jackson State. I give them an A minus. I give Prairie View A&M a B plus. Here's why. Nobody expected Prairie View A&M's women to be number 3 in the SWAC at this point. They beat Southern and they beat Jackson State. So I give them a B. I give them a B plus, B minus. And then if you look on
you can't give them both a B plus and a B minus. Which one you give?
That's what these are my grades. Look, let me handle this grade. All right, so
I'm just trying to figure out how you're gonna record a B plus and a B minus in the grade book.
All right, if you really want to know, so I'll give Jackson State still an A, and I'll give Prairie View A&M a B plus. Does that make you feel better?
That'll work. That makes me feel a lot better. I just want to know which one. I could go either way. I thought the B plus is probably more official. I go with that. I just know if you enter in the computer, you're gonna have a trouble trying to put both the B plus and B minus. So I just thought I'd help a little bit.
Okay, but this is Big Mike's grading system. Let Big Mike's grading system. I'm just saying. All right, and then on Maryland Eastern Shore.
I'm just telling you, the student is gonna come after you. You ask them, you got a B plus, B minus. They're gonna be like, which one?
Well, bring them on. Let them come.
Say they don't count right now. It's midterm. Just make sure you do well the rest of the time in class. So I give you these final grades.
Maryland Eastern Shore, 6-1, A plus to me. Sorry, no bones about it. And then again on the women's side, Morgan State. I would not have put either of those schools to have those records at this point in the juncture. So they both get A pluses to me, and honorable mention A minus to North Carolina A&T as well as CB mentioned.
Like that, good stuff. Let me go back to you, Charles. Give you a chance to talk about your MEAC games. Obviously, not a lot going on, but I did want to ask you in the mix of that is this Legacy Classic with Hampton versus Norfolk State. Hampton comes in at 15-5-17. While Norfolk State is sitting at 15-7, so the record's kind of inverse. It's in Newark, New Jersey, as you know, 4:00 game. It will be on TNT, which is pretty cool. So we'll get a chance to check it out. Does Hampton have a chance in this matchup, or is obviously rivalry games, they tend to be what they are, so people stand up. What are your thoughts on that matchup, and then you can give some grades for the MEAC before we shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect Norfolk State to come out on top of this. Although I do believe A&T and Hampton are playing in a conference that should, CAA I believe is more of a true mid-major conference. So you have to take that into account. To me, I mean, I take a look at Yeah, they got 4 teams already that have 15 wins already. So it's to me they're playing in a league from a basketball standpoint that I just keep notice of. So it's tough on.
I agree. I would say that they certainly have a higher RPI conference.
Yeah, high RPI. That's
I wouldn't call them mid-major because they're a one-bid league unless Boston doesn't lose. That's the only reason I looked at it like.
Yeah, I think Charleston's already like at 21 wins in that league, so it's like.
Oh yeah, they top 25. So if they lose in like the championship game or the tournament, they get 2 teams in. But if they're the only one to win it out, nobody else is getting that hard. So they won big.
Yeah, I think Norfolk State should come out on top in that Battle of the Bay in New Jersey. How that happens, but get the look-see on TNT. That ought to be pretty fun. But as far as grades in the MEAC, Howard gets my B plus. Maryland Eastern Shore gets my A minus.
Oh, no A's, man. No A's and no A plus.
North Carolina Central is at a D right now. I'm surprised where they are. Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm surprised none of y'all giving A's or A pluses. Just A minuses, B pluses. Tough grades for midterm.
Everybody has a stub on their toe somewhere. So you can't be clean with the clean A.
Yeah. A&T, he didn't get them. No. I hate to see what y'all would give Tennessee State, but I'm not even gonna ask. I'll leave that right there.
Don't even ask.
For listening That's what I said. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil with the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Join us Thursday. We have some great interviews stored up for you. Big day in terms of signing day tomorrow. Get out, support your institution. Check out all the news and updates, Twitter Spaces, as you heard from AD Drew. Make sure you check him out as they will get going to give you some D2 updates in terms of good talk on Twitter Spaces. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's DrKenyattaCavil, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you check out our fans page, My JBN, My BCN, downloaded, 25-year anniversary of BCSN. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Go check out the pages and look up as we are doing our 20th anniversary. Support us as we support you. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismissed. I'm going to tease Mike. I thought he forgot. He's been gone so long.